This is the 2025 Polaris Xpedition ADV 5 North Star Edition, and we want to know, did Polaris fix this machine?
When I drove this machine at the press launch in Arizona, it was great. I had a fantastic time. We blasted across the desert, but I did have a couple of pretty big complaints, the biggest of which was the noise. This thing was cacophonous inside.
The noise, vibration, and harshness in here are a lot.
I spent time in this specific model, and yeah, your ears were ringing after a day in the desert.
Later, we got our hands on a 2-seat model, and we took it out to Portsmouth Island, North Carolina, which was a lot of fun. It was the perfect excuse to use this machine as a fishing platform. Threw all our gear in the back, all our camping gear, had a great time. But I will agree, I had the exact same complaint, and I spent most of my time with the windows down and the windshield up just to mitigate the noise. You guys have been telling us that the 2025 model is a lot better. So we took it out here to Trail 22 at Windrock Park to find out if that's the case. Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, it is the case, as a matter of fact. They solidly fixed this problem. So we may have sneakily done a little bit of instrumented testing on this thing. The very model you were talking about at Portsmouth Island, we put a decibel meter in there, and what was it?
It was like 115 decibels?
Right, which is a rock concert, like standing next to a speaker at a rock concert. That is loud. We put the decibel meter in the back seat of this one, closest to the engine the other day, and it registered 85.
85, that is a massive decrease.
Huge.
The decibel meter is not linear, it's logarithmic.
Right.
So for every step up, it's a massive jump in noise.
Right, so going down, what is that, 35 decibels or something? That's humongous.
I could absolutely see myself spending a lot of time in this machine and having no issues. You don't have to wear earplugs, you can hear the guy next to you talking, you hear the people in the back seat talking.
Right, and more importantly, you can hear the big old stereo they put in here.
That's absolutely right. But that's not the only issue you had with it.
That's right. The other issue was both comfort and function related. You see, this has adjustable suspension on it, which is fantastic, but the passenger side rear adjustment knob is right up against the exhaust. There's a pointy heat shield and lots of bits of hot metal. Nobody adjusts their suspension when the rig is dead cold sitting still. You're going to adjust it out on the trail in response to changing trail conditions, and where that knob is doesn't work for that. It's actually painful. You need a glove, if not like a welding glove, to get up in there and switch it. You know what they didn't do?
Well, it is better.
Slightly better.
There's a larger cutout in the heat shield,
Right.
so you can get your hand up in there, but it's still really, really close to that heat shield. So unless you are wearing gloves and you are super quick, you're going to burn yourself. That's not ideal.
So I would say no, they didn't fix that. I want to see that moved, changed, I don't know, put live valve on it, do something. That needs to be different.
All right, this next one is a complaint that I've had with Polaris units forever. It's the shifter. The shifter on this thing is still pretty clunky, and worse than that, it's sticky. So this is a big, heavy machine, nearly 3,000 pounds. You load it with a bunch of guys, bunch of gear. You got 114 horsepower. Frankly, that kind of power is just not enough to move this machine around. You compound that with the fact that you've got to be going between low and high all the time. There are some machines that you can get away with just leaving in high and it will just take care of most obstacles because you have the horsepower and you have the torque to overcome that. That's not the case here. So you have to be going back and forth. And sometimes going from low to high or high to low is a two-handed operation. That is flat unacceptable in a $50,000 rig, and they did not fix that for 2025.
It's bad, and Polaris knows that it's bad. They've been working on this problem with some of their other machines and adjusting shift cables or flat out putting a new shifter in it. It either didn't work in this one or they didn't put the new shifter in it. I don't know what the case is, but yeah, it's still awful. And the worst part is, you know they make a better version.
They make two better versions.
Right, and they fixed it on the Pro R. Like, they know that the problem is there. And again, asking $50K for something that doesn't perform one of the most basic functions that a vehicle can have is it's a bit much.
That's tough. Polaris has two models with excellent transmissions. The first one is the XD 1500 that has a steel belt transmission, which means you don't have to ever worry about changing your rubber belt. That engine's paired with an excellent 3-cylinder engine that makes good power, good torque, it's nice and quiet, and it's got a lot of room to grow in terms of performance. I want to see that driveline in that thing. Not only would it solve the power issue, but it would very much solve the shifter issue. There's also the Ranger Kinetic, which has a brilliant shifter that's not even a real shifter. It's an electric
rocker
motor
switch
back and forth. Super easy. All of that tells me that Polaris is capable of solving this problem. They just chose not to here.
It's interesting you mentioned the engine. I think that was one of my other complaints. There's not enough horsepower here, and contributing to the noise is the fact that it's a pretty thrashy parallel twin. Now, the ProStar 2 is a great engine in a lot of ways. It's super playful. You get it out in a sport rig, you get it out on the trail, it's ready to play, like it wants to dance with you. In this rig, it's really overmatched.
That's an entirely valid point, especially when you think about the type of market that Polaris is aiming for this machine. You're looking at the overland crowd. They're not the kind of guys that are going to throw a straight pipe on their rig. No. You're talking Tacomas, Land Cruisers, LX470s, Jeep Wrangler Gladiators, those type of things.
List goes on.
They're quiet, comfortable, subdued vehicles with nice, quiet engines, because you're going to be spending 8-9 hours a day in this machine. You don't want to be listening to the power plant thrash around.
No, and the solution for that, we have decided, is the XD1500 motor. You said it a minute ago. It's quiet, it's super torquey, it has the kind of power delivery that a machine like this, frankly, can use better than... This is a peaky engine, right?
Yeah. Like it wants to rev to the absolute moon.
The horsepower is way up high. There's not a ton of torque. The 3-cylinder is the exact opposite of that. And again, speaking of the noise, you could double down on reducing the noise by putting that engine in here because it's so silky. So the engine, did they fix it?
No. I mean, I cannot remember the last time I spent this much time at full, wide open throttle on a trail that wasn't just out in wide open desert. It's not to go 1,000,000 miles an hour. It's just to maintain speed. Try and keep up your momentum.
In a rig that's 50 grand, that's tough.
That's tough. One of the things that caught my ear when you were out in Arizona was how the fuel economy wasn't as good as you were hoping.
Right.
Polaris was saying better than 200 miles on a tank. You didn't see anything near that. What did you guys get?
No, our ride was about 120 miles, and the fuel light was flashing when we got to the end point.
And now I understand why.
Right.
Because you spend a lot of time at wide open throttle.
Yep.
That hasn't changed here. We haven't put a full tank through this thing, but I can promise you we are not going to see 200 miles out of it.
Not anywhere close.
Did they fix it?
No, they did not fix that.
They did not fix that.
Man, we just spent a lot of time kicking this thing in the teeth. So, Zach, is it a bad rig?
No, not at all. And I don't want people to get that impression. Look, it is 35 degrees outside.
Freezing.
Absolutely freezing. We have spent all day wheeling around on Trail 22, which is not the easiest trail out here.
Yep.
We have been comfortable. We have been warm. We have been dry. The heater in this thing is amazing.
Yep.
The fact that this is a sealed cab rig that was designed to be a sealed cab rig from the get-go means that it is quieter on the trail than just about, in terms of squeaks and rattles, quieter on the trail than just about any other sealed cab vehicle I have ever been in. The suspension is excellent, especially over baby heads, rock gardens, that type of thing. The wheelbase, how supple everything is. I mean, it's really, really good, and I think it's going to make a lot of sense for a lot of people. The reason we're so upset with the misses on this is because the rest of the rig is that good.
I think that's absolutely right. I think with just a few tweaks, it could be pretty damn near perfect, and we can't stress this enough. Would you take your Land Cruiser and do anything that you just did in this?
No. I mean, we were bopping down Trail 22 at every bit of 20 miles an hour.
Right.
You don't have to worry about, oh, am I going to ding a rocker panel? Am I going to puncture a tire because the Land Cruiser weighs nearly 6,000 pounds?
Right.
This thing just bops along happy as can be. We're having a conversation, we're listening to tunes, we're having a good time.
Absolutely, and I think that's really the key here. And it's also worth remembering that this is the very first generation Xpedition that Polaris has built, and it was a ground-up rig. It's not based on anything they did before. So to take a clean sheet design and have that many hits and just a few very solvable misses is a big deal. You all remember the first Razor. That thing was a golf cart with a big engine in it, and this is a fully realized overlanding vehicle that needs a few tweaks here and there. The second generation, we guarantee you, will be vastly improved over this one, and that's going to make it a really compelling machine. So that wraps it up. Did Polaris fix the Xpedition? They fixed the most important thing that was wrong with it. They've still got some homework to do, but overall, it's a great rig. Thank you all so much for watching. Let us know in the comments what you think about the Polaris Xpedition, and then head over to utvdriver.com where we've got news, reviews, a buyer's guide on this and many other vehicles, and we're there 5 days a week. And otherwise, we'll see you on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We will see you there.